And welcome to the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter, and often guests guide you to the world of online communications in a show which is the brainchild of the late great John Popham. And as usual, we welcome our guest, special guest today, who's Peni Whelan, the founder of Brum Community Media. And we ask her how the weather is. How's the weather where you are, Penny? Where are you?
I'm in Druid Heath in Birmingham, and it's grey and a bit murky and a bit foggy.
Well, here in Moseley in Birmingham, I've got clouds and blue sky. So obviously I've got a bit better than what you have at the moment. Say again, a bit higher up, yeah.
It's good to have this detailed weather report for all areas of Birmingham, but I'm in Orkney in the far north of Scotland, and it's a lovely day, I have to say. It's beautiful, one of these bright, sort of watery sunshine winter's days with a very light breeze. So between Storm Arwen, which was breezy enough, and the new one that's coming, is it Storm Bara is coming soon? Yeah. It's nice to have a little bit of sunshine and calm in between. Great.
So before we settle down to talk to Penny, we'll just cover a few of the things that we usually cover in this slot in the show. And on 6th of December in 1768, the first edition of Encyclopedia Britannica was published in Scotland. I found that quite amazing, Sweyn, when I read it, because these days obviously people search on the internet for all their information. But was Britannica? I mean, I know you don't go back to 1768, but was it something you used when you were a child?
Oh, very much so. At primary school, we had the Children's Britannica, I think, as well in the school. Well, it was two of them, one in each top of each staircase, because it was that important. Because as you say, anything that you wanted to research, that was where you went.
Absolutely. What about you, Penny? Are you a Encyclopedia Britannica baby?
Yes, we had the whole kind of.
Oh, yes.
I think it came from one of those book clubs. I think we used to get one every now and then, and I used to love it when the books used to arrive. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
in there, they were great.
Yeah, me too. I would sit with kind of one of the volumes on my lap, just kind of wander through and learn all kinds of different things. So that was good.
All sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. That serendipity we don't get these days, do you? Because you just go looking for one thing. Maybe you don't just kind of fall into things. On the 10th of December in 1672, New York Governor Lovelace announces a monthly mail service between New York and Boston. And again, Sweyn, I think you and I would have been of an age when writing letters would have been a good way of communicating.
Yes, quite so. Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to think myself back into days when you couldn't just sort of turn around and go click, click, click and find something. But yes.
Well, I'm living in a house now where there's 11 flats and or 11 rooms, and we each have our own post box. And I've been writing letters to one of my neighbors because we're organizing a Christmas thing, and it's quite nice just to for her as well to have something in her post box from time to time. So we're enjoying that. And on 10th of December this year, every year is Human Rights Day, and this is one of the UN awareness days. This is the day that the UN General Assembly adopted in 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is a milestone document proclaiming the inalienable rights that everyone is entitled to as a human being, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, language, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Available in more than 500 languages, it is the most translated document in the world. And in 2021, the theme is equality, reducing inequalities and advancing human rights. Obviously, these principles are at the heart of human rights, and equality is aligned with the 2030 agenda and with the UN approach set out in the document Shared Framework on Leaving No One Behind, Equality and Non-Discrimination at the Heart of Sustainable Development. And this includes addressing and finding solutions for deep-rooted forms of discrimination that have affected the most vulnerable people in societies, including women and girls, Indigenous peoples, peoples of African descent, LGBTI people, migrants, and people with disabilities, among others. And obviously, digital has a big part to play in that. Equality, inclusion, and non-discrimination, in other words, a human rights-based approach to development is the best way to reduce inequalities and resume our path towards realizing the 2030 agenda. So we thought that was a good one to mark for this week that's in it. And we also cover under events. We're coming to the last of the 100% Digital Leeds sessions on skills for supporting digital inclusion. And we've covered this since the beginning of November because we thought it was a particularly good way of supporting digital inclusion. And they have done all kinds of sessions. And today's session, which was at 11 o'clock today and is running now, is on Christmas fun. And this is a themed session where you can find out about the various free, fun and festive themed tools and resources you can use to embed digital into your Christmas events calendar. Perfect, it says, for bringing some digital pizzazz to your Christmas parties, lunches, craft sessions and quiz afternoons. So are we looking, who's looking for digital pizzazz among
digital pizzazz, we can't argue against that, can we?
We certainly like to have some of that. Yeah. So I'm hoping they'll run these again because I thought they were great. The timing obviously was rubbish for us, being at Monday 2 to 3. But yeah, the idea was a good one.
It's great. It's been a very good series. Very good indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that brings us to Peni Whelan, the founder of Brum Community Media. We looked at your LinkedIn, Peni, and so we got your bio from there. It says you're an experienced visiting lecturer with a demonstrated history of working in the higher education industry, skilled in digital strategy, people management, mobile applications, management and media production. You're a strong education professional with a Prince 2 qualification focused on project management from Knowledge Academy, and also having excellent horticulture knowledge. So quite an eclectic mixture of things there. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
You're mute, Penny, sorry.
You're very welcome. Yeah. Thank you. I'm on mute.
Hey.
Classic. So welcome to the show. And how have you been in the last while?
We've been busy. We've been doing all sorts of things. Yeah, we've been.
We haven't had a dog for a while. Hi, dog.
Hang on a second. Let me ask you another question.
Okay, she's gonna deal with the dog, I think.
No, sorry about that. Just had
That's okay. We like to hear a dog. We had the dog last week as well. It's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard that one, so I don't feel too bad. This is Mouse, the radio station's dog.
Great.
Through lockdown, definitely. And yeah, so as I say, we've been doing Hope Radio recently, but we've Mouse, come on, get down now, please. Thank you. Why you've been asleep for hours. So yeah, an over 50s radio station that we started at the beginning of the pandemic, and we've been chopping and changing the programming. Your program obviously goes out onto Hope Radio.
Yeah, that was very exciting for me, I must admit, to think that we were broadcast throughout Birmingham every week. It was very good.
on FM, on 87.9 FM, and throughout the world, in fact. And with some nice data I can show you as well, Pauline. Yeah, so you are reaching a wide and varied audience, and you have good listener figures, which is why I keep you around.
Excellent. So Penny, what you're I mean you're of an age, I'd say, with us. How did you get started in the digital world? What's your early memories of kind of being online and stuff like that?
My early memories of being online. Well, online and being digital are probably two different things for me. Mm-hmm. So being digital, I would say, started for me very, very, very young with an IBM computer in my grandfather's living room.
Wow.
Code out of magazines to make a circle on a screen, or make a line saying my name go across the screen like a snake. And then maybe get the next one would probably be getting my ZX81 kit and making that. So I don't know whether but that was a very, 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 very long time ago. Mm-hmm. But as opposed to getting online, so my first real thing with being online, probably I was working at the 524 Media Centre on the Stratford Road, which is in Spark Hill in Birmingham. It's a bunch of shops now, it's not there anymore. And we set up in the front, I think we had 3 computers, and they were all accessing the internet. And not many of us knew how to do it, but because we were the media centre, so to speak, we had a little radio studio, and we had a little canteen, and we had a couple of video cameras, and we had the computers. So it was down to us basically to learn how things worked, teach people how to set up email addresses, and the very first beginnings of making your own website, and how to do it all with HTML code, of course. So yeah, right from learning things the hard way. And yeah, I mean, I would never have even dreamt about anything like internet radio station back in those days. But yeah, writing, learning how to do it, and then writing up the session plans and the handouts for people to teach them how to do it. So that was kind of like my first introduction to online. Baptism of fire, I think we could call it.
Right. And then you went on to do more stuff in radio and with the BBC and so on.
Yeah. I left the 524 centre when I had Molly, and then I went back and worked as what was I doing? I think it was called curriculum development or something like that. Basically, I was again writing teaching notes for Wolverhampton Community Radio Station to develop all of their training, and got engaged in doing the Wolverhampton Magazine community radio program, which then was followed on by Nikki Tapper. So it was a back to BBC WM. And I did this for a few weeks, and then they phoned me up and went, "Would you like to come and work for BBC WM?" And I went, "Yes, please." So yeah, I worked at BBC WM for a while, doing various bits and bobs, a bit of production, bit of broadcast assistant. I made an hour-long program on the history of hemp in Birmingham. That was quite
go. Yes.
Yeah, and then went back to community radio. Was the station manager for the Hills in Coventry, which was a community, got them their full-time license as community radio station. That was young people. Again, do you know what I mean? Lots of curriculum development, lots of teaching things, lots of practical stuff, but also about programming, how radio can be integrated into the school curriculum and used as, parts of audio, history, geography, electronics. So, coding, there's so much that you can link to radio. And we used to use it very much as an education, but also as a distraction way of, stopping kids getting into trouble. We open up, you say music in studios, and we've got some DJ booths, and do you know what I mean? All of a sudden they're rocking it,
Yeah.
So yeah, then I came back to Birmingham. And what was I doing then? Yeah, then we did the South Birmingham Community Radio, which we ran from the Maypole Centre, and then we expanded, and then we got bigger and bigger, and 21 staff and a full news team and all this, that, and the other. We were flying it. And then unfortunately there was a change of government and a change of funding strategy and a change of priority. And yeah, I think I personally always said that I think the problem was that I actually did what I was told. So I was told to empower young people to be able to have a voice and ask questions, and they kept doing it, and I think it got on people's nerves. So but anyway, that was then. And then yes, then I went and worked in parks and had a nice quiet life for a while.
Yeah, you have it, so this brings into your horticultural experiences that you refer to in your LinkedIn. What was the interest there?
Well, I've always found that working in the garden was my peaceful place. For my mental health, really. That's how I've always managed to cope. I like growing things. I like watching them grow. I like learning about them. Then I became fascinated with, being a communications person, fascinated with the underneath the internet web of the world, as I like to call it. Do you know what I mean? How plants communicate with each other and all that kind of thing. And so I thought, well, if there is something that I wanted to do that wasn't radio, that would be the only other thing that I'd want to do, really. So yeah, I worked for Keep Britain Tidy as a water course, you know, sort of like doing testing of the water and things like that. And then Birmingham City Council with the Rangers, did stuff like that. So, you know, we did bushcraft skills and, you know, art stuff, rubbing, tree rubbings and, you know, little pots of finding, what do you call it these days? Pond dipping.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Identification of invertebrates, that kind of thing. And we put on great parties. We've managed to get a full playground, a new playground and everything for the park. So that was really good. Project management skills again coming in handy. So yeah, it's using the same skills really, but rather than with radio, it's more aiming them towards parks. So I found myself a purpose again. And that was looking after the parks and the trees and the animals and stuff, do you know what I mean? Just round the corner and round about where I live, really. So, yeah.
And you've done some of that recently as well. I think you have something on the Hope Radio site about that.
Yeah, as part of Hope Radio, one of the issues that we came across, because we're for over 50s, during lockdown was, I won't mention any names, but it was a conversation I was having with a particular resident who looks after their elderly relative. And I said, do you know what I mean? If there's one thing that you could have, do you know what I mean? What would it be? And he said, do you know what I mean? Just somewhere to go, somewhere to sit down, even if it's raining, you know, just put up a bus shelter or a bench or something, you know. So, and the problem is sort of like you give Peni Whelan an inch and she'll take, do you know what I mean, 20 million miles. So... So he went out and found some funding and designed these benches, which are like long picnic benches, but they've got roofs on them. So we made 6 of them all together. Well, we worked with the Jericho Foundation, great guys, to actually do the physical building. And then we've got 6 of them in a big circle on the green in front of the radio station just out there. That people can come and sit at or have a chat at or do all sorts of things really.
Yeah, we've got them on screen now. Can we play the video? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fantastic. So as
great.
You can see there's quite a few pods.
Let's have a look.
That's a picture of when there was about lights that we started. Right. There you go. Pods.
Great. I think you were describing the process there, and we didn't quite hear it. So if you can go over that again, please.
Yeah, I was just saying, you know, the Lights of Hope was what we started off with, which was just to be honest, it was me trying to say Merry Christmas to a friend of mine called Tracy, who lives in the tower block during lockdown.
Right.
So working with the park rangers during lockdown, we'd actually I think when we were allowed to meet, we did it legally. Me and a couple of other park rangers. We got some silver birch trees and they'd got these stakes on them, and they really needed taking off because, you know, lockdown or not, these trees were going to suffer if we didn't take these stakes off them. So we took the stakes off them, but then we got nowhere to put the stakes. So I said I'd look after the stakes, do you know what I mean, in the meantime. So we stuck them in the Land Rover and brought them down here. So what I did was at Christmas, I put the stakes out on the grass out the front and a big stake in the middle, and then strung up some Christmas lights.
I saw a picture of that in the video. I think it looked great.
Yeah.
In the shape of a star. But you could only really see it from above. Because my friend Tracy lives on the 8th floor of one of the towers.
Excellent.
So I'm like going, I'll be with you, mate, but you know.
Yeah, that's a lovely idea.
And then the lovely Benita at BBSC said to me, do you know what I mean? There's some Brum recovery fund going, money going. Is there anything that you think that the community would benefit from? And as I say, do you know what I mean? I'd had various conversations, and do you know what I mean? One particularly stuck out to me was these benches with, you know, a covered bench. So that's when the whole bench thing started. So we started off with funding for 2 benches. And then I told people about them when they came down to see them, and they were like, "Oh, you know what? We need more of these." So I thought, well, okay. So let me put them into some kind of a design that makes sense. Because the reason why I managed to put the things together was basically because lots of people put together lots and bits and pieces of money and bits and pieces of funding. And donations and whatnot. And eventually we now have 6 pods all joined together with pallets, also donated as well, all painted, each one's a completely different colour, painted a different colour. Not necessarily all done by me either. We've had the kids doing them, we've had everybody doing them. I know I had to delegate me. We've got, one of them's got a chessboard on there as well, because one of the residents was Polish and I couldn't understand her and she couldn't understand me, but we suddenly managed to talk about a chessboard. So we managed to put a chessboard on there, and we might not be able to communicate very well, but at least we can have a good game of chess.
Yeah. They look great. I mean, particularly for a time when, well, once the lockdown became slightly less severe, then we were all allowed to meet outside then, weren't we? So to have those just there ready waiting for people to live outside, it's great.
Yeah.
It was the first time in my life I've actually ever had genuinely people come up to me, and this isn't for some funders' benefit, actually literally say to me, "Thank you."
Yes.
Great.
I can imagine.
That's nice. That's nice.
It's just for the work, that type of work that I do, you know, those 2 little words mean everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And do the pods have Wi-Fi, or they had Wi-Fi? Do they still have Wi-Fi?
Right. So the next part of the mission is because what is to actually put. Oh, Ashley's going to kill me now because I'll get the words wrong. We're putting some kind of device outside the building here, which will then spread the Wi-Fi that we have here out across the pods.
Yeah.
So that will then enable us, hopefully, to be able to, when we get some more funding, which we're hoping to get soon, or if anybody fancies donating anything, any laptops, that we can then start doing some digital based training courses out there. I mean, I can develop some courses and, you know, to teach people what it is that they want. I mean, at the moment, we're trying to find out what it is that people want to learn. And, you know, coding seems to be of interest to people, mainly because people of our age, our first experience of computers was coding, which most of us are terrified of it. You say to them computers and all they remember is coding. It's like, so that fear is still there. Just like trying to break that fear down and say to them, actually, coding and computers that we did at school, or that I did at school rather, has got nothing to do with the internet. You know, it's not that big scary thing with all the maths and the numbers and the binary codes and all that stuff. It's not that.
No, that's all be done for us now. We don't need to worry about it like we used to. And there's lots of no code solutions to things that, you know, we don't have to create it anymore. It's all there ready for us. So yeah, and I mean that's brilliant. I as you know, I visited the pods, and I think they're a great idea. And I mean, it's such a lovely location as well. It's a hidden gem in Birmingham, where Penny's based. And you know, I'm looking forward to being back there in the spring and bringing other people there, because you know the work we do in Northfield is a bit different, but it, you know, it's related, and I could see that people would relate well to what you're able to do in an urban area that you know hasn't had a lot of money spent on it, to be honest, has it? It's a, you know, it's a fairly deprived area, but there are people there with great hearts like yourself who want to make a difference to people's lives and have made a difference. You know, you're the person who kind of does the pot of stew and kind of feeds people's bellies as well as their hearts and minds.
Well, it's funny you should say that. We've just come into next to the green, underneath where the studios are, there's a bunch of garages, and we've just come into the possession of a garage.
Uh-huh.
And we've also come into the possession of a barbecue.
Wow.
So yes, it all needs to be painted and whatnot first, and we've got some more pallets and things to put up, so we're building some benches and whatnot, and we've been given some deck chairs and things so that we can sit outside as well, all socially distanced, of course. But it's somewhere that we can have we can at least make a cup of tea, maybe even, I mean, an instant soup, or, you know, there's no electricity in there, so I'm not going to be cooking up a great big meal, although we might, you know, if we get like a little gas stove, we could probably do something outside the garages. Don't get me started, Pauline.
I don't think I need to.
So it sounds like you're creating something completely new that wasn't there pre-lockdown at all for your immediate area. So that's amazing. Yeah, it's really good. And I love the look of those pods, I must say.
Yeah, I mean they're you know, I've seen pods elsewhere and they're kind of fancy looking and look like they've had a lot of money spent on them, and those ones look like, you know, kind of one of those things where, well, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, it looks easy. And okay, it wasn't. I know it was done by Jericho, which are a great social enterprise who do stuff like that, but
it doesn't look out of the question that it's not out of the question that you could somehow get one together on your own somewhere else, unlike some flashier stuff, right enough.
Well, one of the other things that I do is I make little toys. Do you know what I mean? And I make puppets and things. So I did technical drawing at school as well as computer studies. What a geek! Oh my god!
Splendid.
As well.
What, sorry?
I did woodwork as well.
Oh wow!
So I've always been fascinated by engineering. So they're actually designed to be like my toys, a kit. So, you know, the most of the struts are all the same size and the same length. They're all at a specific angle. They're all very easily obtainable. The seats are made out of scaffold boards, and they're very simple and to actually be a movable piece.
Yeah,
you know, I wanted to take those down because of the way that they lie on the land with the two struts. The impact on the actual space itself is next to nothing really. And with the pallets on top as well that link them all together, then it becomes like almost like a climbing frame. So that back to the kind of like toy maker engineering as well, so that the kids can run around, you know, because they can't necessarily go all the way over to the park. So, but they come around here and, do you know what I mean?
Run about a bit.
Spaceships or whatever it is that they play. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Check for the round and whatnot.
Great. So are you doing any other local projects, Penny, at this time? Are you what have you got in kind of in planning at the moment that you're able to share with us?
In the planning stages, well, I mean, quite a few really. As you might have guessed. One is that we want to expand Hope Radio. So we're putting together a funding bid called Hope Studios, and we've been donated 14 lovely new computers, well, not new computers, secondhand computers with screens and stands and whatnot from the Birmingham City Council Computers for Good scheme. I think hopefully I'm promoting that right, guys. Which we are very grateful for. And the idea is with a community radio station, you have one hub, one base, one station. It's here, you come here, you do your program, etc., etc. But with the lockdown, things changed. So we had to use different software, different ways. We had to basically reinvent the whole way of how radio, in the same way as the BBC's had to do it as well. You know, we've had to fly presenters in from different locations, etc. So, but also we also have to think about things like dying. So if I die, the whole station goes down. Well, that's no good. You know, so
you mean the equipment failing when you say dying? I hope.
No, I mean literally.
Oh, right.
The person not being with us anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
You get COVID and then I'm out of the picture, then you know there's me and the dog, and Mace doesn't know how to run a mixing desk.
Okay, got you.
Well, we have to think about these things.
Yes, no, you're right.
You know, it's a very morbid risk assessment, but it's something that's, you know, that's had to be thought about and had, you know. So the idea is to have the extra computers and then to deploy them at various different sites around the city. So what we're doing in effect is we're creating, well, hopefully 3 or 4, depending on how many people we can get involved, maybe more if we can, you know, if you are a community group in Birmingham dealing with the over 50s and you'd like a studio in your place, give me a ring.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's basically what we're doing, so that we can have the sports program coming from this studio, we can have new music live coming from that studio, we can have news coming from that studio. But because they're also deployed in different areas as well, then what they can do is then we can do local news, proper local news, coming right from the scene, micro, ultra, do you know what I mean? The Stratford Road's blocked because the number 57 isn't working, do you know what I mean? Whatever it is. Proper.
Yeah.
So that would then give us an opportunity. So that's kind of like the big thing that we're dealing with at the moment.
Great.
We during the pandemic, as part of Brum Community Media, which is essentially a network. Did I tell you about Brum Community Media? Did you ask me about Brum Community
We
Media?
didn't really talk about that yet. No, please carry on.
Okay, sorry. Okay, there you go. There's a second. So segueing into Brum Community Media, which is where everything started really during the pandemic. As a bunch of creatives, we were all kind of like sporadically all over the place, but wanting to do something, wanting to do our bit, so to speak. And you know, we can't put needles into people, and we can't invent. You know, we're not scientists. You know, we're a gang of poets. We're a bunch of artists, we're media types, we're creatives, we make videos and tell news stories. And so we decided to create Brum Community Media just so that there was a place for all of us to kind of like hang out together and do what we do best, which is being creative really in any which way that we can, to try and help us get through the lockdown and to help everybody else get through the lockdown. So we then had a purpose. And before Hope Radio, one of the very first projects that we worked on, which took us a year to do, I hasten to add, with no funding, was Hope VR Spaces. Now, the 3D geeks got together and they created a virtual art gallery, myself included, coding required. And all the artists that we knew, including the late great Brian Travers. Basically, we put a load of artwork on the walls of this virtual art gallery. We got the audio lot involved, so we recorded all of the artists talking about their own stuff. We got them to write little biogs of their stuff as well, so that it was completely accessible, so that you could read it, you could hear it, you could look at it. You got links to the artist's different websites if you wanted to see more. You could go up it, round it, down it. You could look at the top view of it, and we created all this staging within the art gallery, so that if you looked at it from the top view, it said the word hope across it. So that was pretty cool. That's thanks to a friend of mine called Elaine. So there was loads of people that managed to, do you know what I mean? Everybody wanted to stake in it. So do you know what I mean? That was brilliant. Took us a year to complete, and we finally opened it on our birthday, which was May this year, I think it was. And then once we got that one sort of like started, then Hope Radio came along, and then we did that one, and then we did Poets of Hope. So that one's still going strong. And then we've just done so many different projects that have all come from Brum Community Media, basically. And it's a collection of creative people from Birmingham or not from Birmingham that just want to help out third sector organisations and help with the COVID thing. Do you know what I mean? In any way that we can, really. We want to be useful engines.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of what it was all about.
Yeah. Well, Penny and I met Sweyn at Birmingham City University when we were both on the master's course for journalism.
All right. Yes.
And it was a very serendipitous
yes, I can imagine that would be good.
Minds. Yeah, we got on really well. So I was really pleased to be part of Hope Radio when it got off the ground as well.
It's been good. It's been good.
We really enjoyed, didn't we, Sweyn?
Good thing. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Making the program and knowing that it was going out again on Hope Radio was a real treat for us. So you've been a really huge catalyst, Penny. Doing the work, but also encouraging other people to do the work as well that needs to be done to kind of validate and support communities, especially at this time of crisis. So what do you get out of it? What's in it for you?
What's in it for me? It's the same old thing. Do you know what I mean? I want to live in a nice area that's supported by nice people doing nice things for each other. I'm a romantic, that. I'm a daydream believer. I just want everybody to be nice and have a lovely time and get on with each other and support each other. And when there's a big gap in the market, like the digital divide that there is at the moment, where you notice it more when you live somewhere like Druids Heath. Now, yes, I could go and get the big job and go and get the big house and move out of Druids Heath, and do you know what I mean? And whoa, you've moved, you've left. I don't want to. I'm very, very happy here. Thank you very much. For those who think it's just some council estate on the edge of Birmingham, yeah, it is. Please don't come here. Go away. Full of wonderful, wonderful, creative, helpful, brilliant people. We're right on the edge of the countryside. I mean, we have literally got fields of horses and sheep next door. I'm not kidding. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, right.
We are. We're right by the M42. So we've got great access to M42 if we need to go somewhere. We've got a great bus service. We've got some brilliant shops just at the top of the road, and we've got some fabulous amounts of green space. We've got open water, and it's absolutely fantastic. But don't tell anybody.
Well, somebody's made a web page, a wiki page, a Wikipedia page for Druids Heath. So it's all there to be discovered.
Okay. It also has a public library, Sweyn.
Yes, I noticed that.
A friend of mine works there, so it's got all the amenities. And it is. I mean, I've driven there last year sometime. I think I remember, because one of the photographs for Hope is my hand holding the card with the pods behind, and it's really like a magical mystery tour. Just driving there, it's you don't expect it. It's at the end of the kind of a long road, and then you come across this green space, and it has it's high up. So you can see, lots of Birmingham and other places. Penny, can you see other places from there?
Yeah. Well, from the top of Druids Heath, if you look, let me think. If you look west, you've got the sunset every night. So obviously, it's absolutely beautiful. So anything west of Birmingham, we can see. We can see the King's Norton Spire from here. I mean, on a clear day, you can see. Is it the Malvern Hills, or is it the? It's some hills all the way over there. But yeah, you can if you stand, we are one of the highest places in Birmingham and one of the windiest as well.
Windy, yes.
That's what Druids Heath's like.
Yeah.
And we're somewhere about here.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, then it goes, and sorry, it actually goes like that.
A valley.
Like it's all the way down that. It's a big valley, so that's why we tend to get lots of fog down here. You see,
I've found this Druids Heath Wikipedia page. I'm absolutely fascinated because at the bottom there's a list of, it must be 100 or more areas of Birmingham, starting with Acox Green and Alum Rock and finishing off with Yardley and Yardley Wood. So there you go. You can spend a long time looking into Birmingham and what all of it. It's not a part of the world I know well at all, but
I always find it fascinating looking on Wikipedia pages because inevitably there's some fact or something quoted as fact, and somebody local says that's not true,
and
then somebody else says that's not true either. That's not true. So it's quite empowering. We've done work in the past with community groups to take control of their Wikipedia page, to say we're going to put on there what is it true about the area, and it does empower people. Same with things like open street maps, mapping things that are important to the area, not just what's important to somebody who doesn't come from there.
Yeah, I think it's very important for communities to be able to control their own narrative.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we have suffered from in Birmingham, in Druids Heath, let's say, is the parachuting project manager. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yes.
We are a deprived area and blah blah blah, but that doesn't mean we're stupid. We haven't had any regeneration in our area for ever since we haven't. All they do is come in, promise it to us, and knock something down. So we've lost a lot of resources. The neighbourhood office has gone. Most recently, we've lost the senior school. The whole senior school's gone. That was a big thing. But now they've come in with this new regeneration. And hopefully things are going to be moving forward. But yes, parachuting project managers is rather annoying when you're a community worker that's been working in the community for a very, very long time.
Yes.
You can't keep your eye on the ball on all sorts of things, and somebody goes out and gets some funding to do something that's taken you, you've already done 6 years worth of research on it, and they come in and go, I've got funding to do this and I'm going to do this. You're like, hang on a second, who are you?
Yeah. I do try and encourage funders when they are funding a local project, to think about what that one of the questions should be, who else in the area is doing something like this? Who can you cooperate with? Because it's not bad. It's not good when they.
And also, what kind of legacy going to leave? Do you know what I mean? The legacy of Hope Radio will be the radio station and the pods, and everything else do along the way.
Yeah, very decent.
But if you're coming in to do a project, what is your legacy going to be? And I would very much like funders to maybe sort of like look at that a little bit more. Have you consulted with the community properly? Yes or no? We suffered that with the regeneration. They came in, did a consultation, and then the following week, I think it was, there was about a week to go, and they went, "Oh, these are the results of our consultation." We were like, "Whoa, hang on a minute! I've done more consultation for £10,000 than that."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about keeping people in check. But I think with Druids Heath, because we've had it so many times, again and again and again, we've got a bit wise to it.
Yeah.
And when we see something pop up, we will always challenge you. Oh, are people in Druids Heath aggressive? No, we're not. We will challenge you because we've had years and years of this. You come in and you're going to do something to us, and what again? Really? Thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's really important how small areas, local area, what they're called, ultra local areas or whatever, how they manage to kind of represent themselves and engage with these things is really, really important. Because, I mean, in some countries, it's my old hobby horse of the size of local government. In some countries, there is a structure to local government that's local nearly to that level. But in the UK, in no part of the UK is that true. All the local authorities are far, far, far too big to be properly local. And it takes people like you and organisations that you manage to get going to actually represent properly local interests and it's a really important thing. Sorry, Pauline, I go on and
I
on
was going
about
to
this.
say, yeah, no, just going to say, in Birmingham, there are a few parish councils, which would be a more
Right,
local,
yes.
a local structure. Frankly, has one, and in fact, there's been a consultation recently about one in Boston Heath. So, I know that some people do recognise that the structures that exist are far too monolithic for people to feel locally people to feel connected with it. I'm interested in Penny in what you say about kind of local people being the ones who kind of are active and get involved in things, because I went to that play about Grenfell at the Rep recently, and they people in the councils there had minuted in kind of documents about Grenfell that certain people came to meetings who were kind of known local agitators, or there was some negative word anyway, and it wasn't appreciated that kind of people who have lived in areas a long time have a knowledge that can't be bought, that needs to be cultivated and supported to make things happen locally, have an effect on people's lives, and not just, as you say, parachute in and kind of not be very effective.
Yeah, we prefer to call ourselves passionate
absolutely,
rather than agitators.
Yeah.
I've just as Pauline's just alluded to, I've just done a master's degree. I'm going to ask questions. 'Tis the nature of me to do that academically properly. Do you know what I mean? Even qualified, even though I've been a member of the NUJ for God knows how many years, to actually ask you these questions. And I have every right to ask you these questions. And I know that as soon as I put my head above the parapet and start asking questions, people are going to come down on me and say things like, oh, you think you're clever, do you? Do you know what I mean? Who are you asking all these questions? Or you're being argumentative, Penny, or all manner of other negative stuff that they will throw at you. And to be honest, you do have to have a thick skin, a very, very thick skin, in order to be able to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And or you have to be completely and utterly insane. I haven't quite decided which one I am.
I hope it lasts, whichever it is. And actually, I've just remembered the phrase was known troublemakers.
Known troublemakers.
And it's like, why would you want to, why do you not appreciate the community for what it is? Yeah. So Penny, if people want to get in touch with you and kind of follow up on any of the things that we've talked about today, what's the best way to contact you?
So the best way to contact me is via the Brum Community Media email. So it's brumcommunitymedia, all one word, @gmail.com.
And that is in the description of the YouTube video for this program. So that should be there, along with links to your various websites and things like that. So.
Yeah. And it's on the Facebook page, which people can join in on if they're relevant to the matter on the page. Okay, so we're going to, Penny, if you stick with us, we're going to cover a few stories that we have picked up in the last few days, and please do feel free to chat along with us. The first one is from I think it's Christians Against Poverty. It was a tweet I saw about some findings on a report they've done on entitled "Digital Divide: Financial Difficulty and Digital Exclusion." And I did like that graphic there, Sweyn. So we'll focus on that in a minute.
Put that in.
Yeah. So they did this report, and they have some kind of key findings on the tweet. I can't remember what the tweet
says. Great work's happening to increase inclusion and remove barriers stopping people from using the internet. Firms and government can help ensure people aren't penalized by a digital world they can't benefit from. And here's what we propose to do to make that possible.
Yeah. So it's a really useful little report, and they have some key findings, which before we come to these design principles, and the key findings were that 1 in 4 CAP clients experience some degree of digital exclusion. 1 in 4 having limited digital engagement, and accessing a service and solving a problem online are the tasks most people find difficult. And we can certainly relate to that. Even when you're used to being online, if things aren't designed well, then you can't fall through the cracks. The next finding was that digital exclusion can be persistent or periodic. So as well as persistent digital exclusion due to not having a device with internet access or online services being inaccessible, 1 in 4 experience periodic exclusion, which stops them doing certain things online or at certain points in time. So, you could be running out of money, or the system could be down for whatever reason. We know that, the internet is a great thing, but it does have it does break down from time to time. So the exclusion can affect people who might not have previously considered themselves to be digitally excluded. The next finding was that digital exclusion has a range of causes, including financial barriers. The type of barriers people face affects which online tasks they find difficult. It is low-income households, single parents, and people in receipt of means-tested benefits who experience financial barriers the most. And the bullet points after that heading were that 98% of people who can't afford enough data on their phone face the vulnerability factor, and 85% of people who are unable to afford a broadband contract are in receipt of a means-tested benefit. So, income is a very important thing as far as digital inclusion or exclusion goes, which makes it all the more important to for Wi-Fi to be freely available to people everywhere. As far as we would highly recommend that. So the recommendations at the end of the those findings were that this is important work taking place taking place to increase inclusion by removing the barriers that stop people using the internet in their lives and work. However, as we have said before in this program, non-digital alternatives are still important as they allow everyone to participate more fully in society. Firms and government are able to mitigate the gap so that people are not penalized by a digital world they cannot benefit from. And that goes on then to the recommendations for the design principles as kind of illustrated in that illustration we saw earlier. So the digital inclusive design principles are no sudden cutoff, inclusive design, to enable third-party support, to offer help, zero rate the essentials, omni-channel by default, design for mobile, and no blacklisting. And if we have there's some text on each of these items on the website about what these things are. So we'd recommend that people have a look at that. Design isn't something that I kind of looked at a lot in my early days of my digital journey, but I know it's become more and more talked about, and we've talked about it a lot, Sweyn, haven't we, more recently?
Yeah, and part of it is just as simple as what we were just talking about with Penny there. Include the people who are going to be involved in giving and receiving a service in the design of that service. Make sure that everyone who's involved has a say, and that some of the problems which you can foresee that way are actually found before you start, or as you start, or as you build something.
Market research, and research some more.
Yeah. It's the buzz phrase for that nowadays is service design or co-production. But it's just the same thing, as you're saying, as it's always been. Things that tend to work have tended to be researched properly.
Yeah, and I like the idea of inclusive design. Inevitably, if you decide, that your work has to be inclusive, then you end up including more people. For ramps, for example, yes, they're handy for people, your wheelchair users, but they're also handy for buggies and people who are less mobile sometimes, and scooters and all kinds of
people
things
carrying people trundling luggage if they're
exactly
visiting a city from their island home. We benefit as well. Yes.
Definitely. The other thing that's particularly good on that list as well is designing for mobile. It still amazes me how many websites I visit on my phone that kind of have a bit of the text over to one side, or a picture or something that's cut off, and it's like, well, I'm speechless over it. It just seems like, why would you?
Nice and simple. Just edit the CSS code and you can sort it out.
That's right. It's not difficult.
No, absolutely. And the sorry, just to add one more thing, which was offering help. When I was doing IT support for Aging Better in Birmingham a few years ago now, making it possible for people to ask for help they needed, almost immediately, made sure that they didn't get bored or fed up or frustrated and give up. So having help available is a very important thing. One more story, I think, Sweyn, before we at least one more before we finish today. This is about education scholarships launched for refugees and homeless people. And this is a former child refugee who's launched an education scholarship program to support refugees and the homeless in the UK. And this scheme will help provide training and classes for homeless people and those from refugee backgrounds to upgrade their skills and integrate into society. And the former child refugee, is called Peter Padu, who had to flee the Balkans during the conflict there in the early 1990s. And he hopes the new scheme will help participants get back on their feet through education and eventually move into permanent accommodation and employment. He has started a social enterprise called socialbox.biz, which redistributes unused laptops and other devices to the most digitally vulnerable in society, thanks to donations by businesses and individuals. And some of his donors have included Legal & General, the CBI, the Greater London Authority, and fashion chain New Look, which recently donated a record 1,000 items to the organisation. And it's through this initiative, that Peter will raise the funds for the scholarships. He's already pledged to donate £5,000 to one of the social enterprises charity partners, C4WS, once the next 5,000 items have been delivered. And the article goes on to say, as more companies move into a hybrid style of office and home working, socialbox.biz expects to see an increase in unused laptops, computers, and other devices becoming available for those in need. Social enterprise also recently launched its Business Hero scheme, which aims to recruit 100 business partners to help tackle digital inequality over the next couple of years. And that's the kind of local project we were very keen to see, because, local people, as we said with Druids, in the Druids Heath example, local people know what's needed locally. They live and breathe it every day. So, they understand the ins and outs of things and what might work, what hasn't worked in the past, what might work in the future. So, be good to see more support for that.
Yeah, I mean, if they actually do do a bit of old-fashioned sort of shoe leather work, then they can actually get a whole lot more information, no disrespect, than from any form of data sets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, I in the past I used to have the phrase data-driven innovation or data-driven something, and now I'm more likely to be data-informed. We can use data to help us, but it's not the only thing. You do really need to know local stories of what's happening with people. Okay, and I think that brings us to the end of the show this week, Sweyn. Yeah,
I think so.
Thanks again, Penny, for joining us, please keep going with all your projects, and we look forward to having you on the show again in the near future.
Sure will.
Editing this program and putting it back out onto Hope Radio. So until next week, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks very much. Have a good week. Bye.